Hello and welcome to this week's lecture on social media marketing. Today we're going to be talking about identifying your target audience. Hopefully by the time you get to the end of this chapter, you will understand the importance of targeting your social media marketing and the process in which you go about doing it. We'll also look at this persona development cycle as part of that process. We'll also look at targeting ads and posts on social media platforms. And then lastly, we'll look at some best practices for targeting branded posts. And so you should understand how all of this ties in together in terms of identifying your target audience. So let's use somebody that we might want to target. Let's say we want to target SM majors that are interested in social media marketing. And so when we say that, where are we going to reach these people? And so who's the right person to get? What's the right content to deliver to them? What's the right place? Where are they going to find it? What's the right time of day or time of week or month that they will be looking to find it? What format will they want it in? And that again depends on what platform they're going to be using. And then we think about what language they might want. And the language, could be English, could be in a different country. Again, that's something else we need to consider. And then we need to think about what's the device that they might be using in order to find what we're trying to send them at the right place, the right time, and the right format. Now, sometimes the device is going to dictate what the format is going to be. And when we say device, that might be, is it going to be a smartphone? If so, what type of smartphone? How big is that screen size going to be? Or is it going to be a tablet? Or is it going to be a PC? And any other kind of device that I haven't mentioned. And so just thinking about all these things at the same time to reach that person that we're targeting can be really difficult. And so as you see at the bottom here, it's a formidable challenge. So one of the things that you might use in order to help you with this targeting process is to find some demographics on the people that you want to target. Demographics include their age, their sex, their location, their income. So it's information that you collect about that person. Then you want to look at geographics. Perhaps they live in a certain area of the country, in certain cities. Maybe you only want to spend your money where there is a high probability that you're going to find these people. You could also break this group or segment down into lifestyles, so if you can figure out what kind of lifestyles these people might have that you're targeting. And so if you know that you've got certain people that you're attracting and you can determine what their lifestyles are, and then use that to go out and find other people who have similar lifestyles. That's what we're talking about here. So if we were looking at people for, let's say we're selling camping gear, then we're looking for people that have an outdoor, more adventurous type of lifestyle. And if we can target those people that might be inclined for that lifestyle, then we can actually then try and find them by other databases or information and then target them with our ads. Sometimes you might hear these lifestyles referred to as psychographics as well. Now, the question is where are you going to get all this data? And so you might get this data from the Internet of Things, and that means devices that are connected to the Internet that would allow you to pull information and identify that particular person. So an example might be, let's say we have refrigerators that are connected to the Internet, and we can monitor what kind of food goes in and goes out. And so if we're looking for people that excuse me, that eat a certain food or buy a certain type of food, that might identify them into a certain lifestyle. And then we can then target them with our other ads that we're looking at, trying to get their feedback or get them to buy a similar product or a related product. Again, what we're after here is that process of segmenting our target market. Is there something that people that we're going after have in common? And if we can identify that, then we can identify other people who have that in common. And that's who the people we want to send our ads or whatever we're trying to do with our social media marketing. So in the last chapter, we talked about having a campaign. And so in that campaign, we would go through this process. So here are the different steps in targeting our SMM. So again, first thing we want to do is define our target audience and segments. What are we going to use to define those? Some kind of demographics. Is there a certain age group, sex, amount of income they make? We're going to look at their lifestyles. We're also going to look at their media use. How many times a day are they on the internet? Do they use mobile devices to do that? What are they doing offline? Maybe if they drive a lot, then maybe we would say we're going to use some kind of audio then, so they're not watching some kind of video, right? Then we're going to create some kind of persona for each segment, right? And that persona means, what do those people look like? What are their needs? What are their triggers for each of their roles? What kind of message do we want to get into each of those roles? And so within your segment, you may have either further subsegments, and each segment takes on a persona. So if we were identifying that student or potential student that wants to come to school and get a systems management degree, what kind of persona do they have? Is it a young student, older student, student with children? Do they have a job already? What sort of things do they do that enables them to look for maybe going back to school? Where do they look? What kind of devices do they have? That's all the things that we're collecting in order to be specific about our segment, and so we can get our message out to them. So that's part of this media plan for each targeted segment. Right? The media mix would mean, what sort of things are we going to use? We're going to use the internet, but within the internet, are we going to use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, or some other social media application? We're also going to have to think about what times of the day would be best. Again, we're thinking about the scheduling, because if we know our target market and what times they're using the internet, we don't want our message to get buried underneath a bunch of other posts on those social media outlets. We want ours to be seen almost immediately when they log in and start using that. Then we have to evaluate that. Is it working? Are we using the right times of day? Are we using the right social media app? From that information, we will modify our campaign. We'll optimize the media that we're using. And what we mean by optimizing is we'll look at those. What are the best days? The different times to post, and then what platform are we going to use? So these are some of the things that you need to think about when you're targeting your audience. So I want to back up here a little bit and talk about where you're going to get all this information and what kind of information exists for you. This information goes by the name of big data, and this is all the data that's being collected on the internet about users. right? This is called your digital clickstream. So the providers, the search engines, they're all watching what you're searching for. They're watching for where you go once you find something you're looking for, how long you stay on those sites. They're collecting that information. And so they then break that information down into different types of targeting. So here's some different types of targeting that you may use when you're trying to look at your target audience and segment that audience. So with behavioral targeting, they're looking at your purchase behaviors or the behaviors that indicate that you're going to do something. And so it might be that Amazon is tracking all your purchases. And so we know what sort of things you purchase. If we're looking for people that purchase similar items, maybe you would see ads for those certain things. And that would also explain the reason why when you're on Amazon, you would see different ads pop up along the side. They're based on your either searches within Amazon or previous purchases. The connection targeting deals with how you're getting to the site that you're finding information on. And when I say you, I mean you, the consumer. And so we're wanting to know how are you connecting to our page. Is it through a certain app? Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Or some other app that we're using? In terms of interest targeting, it might be based on when you fill out a application to join a site, you are reporting your interests, and also when you're clicking on things once you've logged in, they can tell what you're interested in. And so we're gathering that information so we could actually then say, okay, people who are interested in country music in the 70s are people like this, and this is the sort of things that they're interested in. And so I may have some kind of product I want to target to you that way. And then lookalike targeting is just like it sounds. We're looking for people that are similar to the same way as our current people that we targeted and it worked for. Custom target means we're using our own data that we've collected. And then location targeting might use geo-targeting or geo-fencing, where we know that our customer is at a certain location or place, and because of that, we're going to send certain ads to them. You know, malls are trying this out, big cities, when you walk by a certain store or a certain company, you might get a certain targeted ad by that. One example I've seen in the past is, let's say you're in a grocery store and you've got this app that tells you about all the sales that are going on as you're walking down the aisle. Maybe you only want to be alerted to certain sales. And so as you walk down the aisle, as you get close, then you get a certain ad that pops up. I've also seen it on cruises. And so if you go on a cruise, it might be that as you're walking around on the boat, when you get close to certain sensors, then certain information or ads will pop up on your device that you can look at and participate in. And so you see a lot of cruise lines using that right now. So the technology is probably Bluetooth or some type of proximity sensor when you're within a close range, and then again, that's location targeting. So some things you should be aware of when you're using this data is that when you're on a certain platform, let's say Facebook, it may not offer all types of targeting. Right? So depending on which platform you're using, you may have to use a different type of targeting. Also keep in mind that if you're just working on increasing brand awareness, that you may not be as accessible as an advertiser who gets new targeting options first. And so with the brand name marketer, you're going to receive those options later on what you can do and who you're going after. But using big data then allows the descriptions for your target audience to be much richer than you have for traditional media. Traditional media would be, TV, print ads, billboards, those sort of things. So your book gives some examples. Here we have Facebook users over 55 years of age, but what do we know about them? Maybe we know that they use it at least once a week and they belong to one or more travel interest groups. So that allows us to fine-tune who we're targeting. Maybe we've got LinkedIn users in the states of Illinois and Ohio who indicate that they're interested in social media marketing, and that's part of their skill. So again, it allows us to hone in on what we want to target to them, what kind of ads, what kind of message do we want them to know. Here's another example. We have Instagram users who post from Los Angeles beaches. Now again, the time of day and the time of year, Labor Day weekend, maybe there's something else going on and we could target them for that. Also, we have information about brand page fans who visit a retail store. Once we know that, then we can actually send them coupons for that. So if you look at, say, Bed Bath & Beyond, I think that's the name of the store. So if you're visiting them and they can get your email address, then they will start sending you coupons, and maybe you sign up for the coupons. That allows them to target you with certain types of advertisement. Hopefully that gets you into the store. Once they got you in the store, maybe you'll buy other things. And so the big data is a lot of information that's available to you. It's very rich, but you got to figure out how you're going to use it to target a specific segment. The next thing I want to talk about is the persona development life cycle. And so if you recall that persona, we want to look at what is the personality type of someone in our segment audience that we're targeting. And so a lot of times you may have already pre-developed personas, but if you're new, and so as I was saying, sometimes the persona won't be developed for you and you'll need to develop them from scratch. And so if you have your own business and you know what type of people are coming in, and then from that you can develop that persona. And so when we say develop the persona, then you need to identify their personal roles. Think about what is it that they need and what are the situational triggers. So if you're a lawnmower company, what's the typical person like that comes in and buys lawnmowers? Well, they have a need to mow a yard. The question is what size yard? So you have a different segment for different types of mowers you might be selling. What are the situational triggers? It's springtime and they need to mow their yards. Maybe they've had a failure on one of their mowers. What's the persona type that are people that have their mowers fail? Maybe they're people that don't keep up with their maintenance. Maybe that's something you could target to those people. Again, you're developing that persona for each segment. And once you've got that, then you can create your messaging objectives for that. So here we have an example of some generic air travel personas. What does the business traveler look like? What does a leisure traveler look like? What does a family traveler look like? What does special needs traveler look like? Then based on those 4 different segments, they looked at what are the in-flight issues that each of those segments might have. They identified 26 of those issues, and then they ranked them who had the highest in those areas. So we had business, and then we had the family traveler. So the lowest there was the leisure traveler. And so those in-flight issues might be things like the entertainment that they have, the food services, if they have internet access, and so on. I know I recently had a family member that traveled overseas, and they did it on a very low cost budget, and so they were a leisure traveler. They weren't interested in the food that was being served, if there was internet access, or if there was a certain type of entertainment, if any at all. And so, but again, based on those segments you're going after, there's different things that you can use to target them. And it's all based on developing that persona first. And I'm going to go ahead and stop there for this part of Chapter 3. And when we come back, we will begin with this Forrester Social Technographics ladder.